Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Read Tifos, where I take stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called A Lone Traveler, written by Yamoyek. Sir, there is something blocking our senses, approximately 5,000 kilometers long. Computers can't extrapolate the cause. Panic rose in the new crew member's voice, his mandibles retracting into his facial cavity and his antenna straightening up. On screen, the captain didn't even look up from her handheld console. She wasn't worried about some gravity well or wormhole or whatever the hell was blocking their path. She simply wanted to deliver their cargo from point A to B and finally take that vacation she's been putting off. She also wanted to keep reading about the new elected leader on Randy 3, but she put the handhold down and focused. The screen hummed, indicating it was on, yet it stayed completely black. Jesus, Cadril, you first overload our energy capacitors, then you nearly depolarize our engine couplers, and now you can't even put an image on screen. What do I pay you for? She stomped over and rolled Cadril's chair out of the way. She pushed a few buttons, and yet nothing happened. Her eyebrows met together in the middle as she attempted to mentally troubleshoot. Full stop, maybe you messed up the damn sensor array too. She jogged over to a little monitor in the back of the bridge. Meanwhile, Cadril started tinkering with a few buttons, his four spindly arms mashing some buttons combinations. A few presses later, he let out a few clicks of satisfaction as an idea popped into his head. Outlining shape based on electron dispersal pattern. The main screen flashed, and the whole screen was filled with an inky tendril outlines in the milky white lines. The tendriled creature made the cargo ship look like tinier than normal, a speck of dust in the grand cosmic scale. Its tendrils writhed around the screen, seemingly grasping for something like a toddler. That has to be a sensor malfunction. The captain's voice was barely louder than a whisper, and her jaw nearly scraped to the floor. She had read the old stories of the famed Kraken, the giant squid which devoured ships for lunch, but she never assumed that she would be the main character in the story. Actually, she thought, the Kraken could be 100 times bigger than described, and it still wouldn't stand out against whatever the hell faced them. In space, many things were described as big. A planet is big. A star is big. But a giant space monster with more tendrils than a beach has grains of sand? A giant space monster large enough to block out the light of not one, but multiple stars. That's huge. The captain took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever this adventure would hold. Cadril, leave a beacon behind us transmitting to all ships. Trade route closed. Set viewer for electron dispersal. The ship Antagon 1308 has gone out to investigate. Investigate? Cadril spun his chair around. His eyes were bigger than normal, and his antennae were quivering slightly. I shouldn't have gotten on a ship with a human, he thought to himself. Did I stutter? Take us in slowly. Make sure not to hit anything along the way. You've probably heard what happens when a Calarian crystal gets too excited. The captain tried to relax as she leaned back in her chair, but she gripped the seat's armrest hard enough to pale her knuckles. A small bead of sweat rolled down her temple. A half-hour later, Cadril slowed the ship to a crawl. The sensors read the distortion almost directly in front of them. Captain, I think if we keep this continuous electron pulse, we can track the sensor's distortion and make a rudimentary map. Try it. Turn on the view screen and make it half normal view and half your map. The view screen hummed once again. Half of it showed the ship in a 3D space, walls of flesh moving around it. The other half was completely black, fully enveloped in a void. The darkness wasn't the normal darkness of space. Out there, there's plenty of stars to light up the path. And whatever they were, the darkness seemed to eat at whatever light it could, absorbing all of it from the ship. Cadril started a low-intensity beam, width of 5 meters, random wavelengths excluding visible light, direct to the nearest wall. Cadril's quivering arm extended towards a few buttons. A few beeps later, and a low hum was heard as the beam shot from the ship. Cadril, is it me or is the darkness moving? Her leg bounced as she stared ahead. I see it too. I'm stopping the beam. The wall of void moved up like a curtain. It started slowly freezing to the 2 audience members in anticipation, but mainly fear. The curtain sped up faster and faster, the wall of void pulling up at the speeds near unpredictable, all to reveal an eye. The eye shifted its gaze for the disturbance until it settles on the ship. If sound traveled through space, the creature's roar would have sounded deafening. On the outside, the ship was screeching in terror. It was akin to a small mouse accidentally waking a tiger. The various external lights turned off and on as the power rerouted about. On the inside, all hell was broken loose. Carol's antennae buzzed from pure fear, his spindly arms vibrating enough to produce a low hum. His mandibles chattered like a maraca. The captain whizzed around faster than she had ever moved, yelling orders as she herself navigated the various consoles around the bridge. Life support set to reserve power, rerouting power from weapons systems to cargo bay shields, environmental controls in reserve, lighting systems rerouted to thrusters, available power 100% than normal, rerouting to all thrusters, engaging neural link. Red lights flashed all throughout the ship, almost as if it knew the situation it was in. The captain pushed a button on her armrest and a panel on the side opened up. She yanked a cable and shoved it into the port at the base of her skull. Under normal circumstances, one must ease into the connection, slowly accustoming their thoughts to the ship, but these were not normal circumstances. "We're getting the hell out of here," she yelled. She pulled the ship around to face where they'd come from, and she sped through the maze of tentacles that materialized. It was quite a sight to watch a ship weaving through the maze, whizzing left, right, up, and down in a mad dash to escape an unnamed beast. But the captain wasn't perfect. No human is. Seemingly out of nowhere, a tentacle snapped the ship to the side. Alarms blared, and every console on the ship lit up red. "Damage report." "Shields at 2%. Containment field on the crystals is nearly destabilized." The captain pressed a few buttons, and the cargo bay door slammed open. The crystal chest was sacked into space, and the ship was exploded forward, faster than the already breakneck speed it was going at. The crystal chest, not avoiding them like the ship was, slammed into a tentacle. The resulting explosion spewed plasma everywhere, the debris slamming into whatever was around. "Captain, the tentacles are making an opening. It looks like we damaged the beast." He highlighted it on the view screen, and she instantly capitalized on the opportunity. They shot out of the hold, expecting the same empty space they'd left, but lights blinded the ship from all angles. "What the hell?" She slowly eased the cable out of her head with one hand and blocked the lights with the other. When her eyes finally finished adjusting, she let out a huge sigh. The silver flagship of the intergalactic military, the Opal, was towering in front of them, floating beside her with a few other ships, each with their own weapons array flaunting the might of the military. A few new ships were scattering away, with their drones weaving in between ships. She straightened her posture and pressed a button on a chair. "This is the cargo freighter Antigone 1308. "Move your ship. I am Admiral Dormerka." "Pleasure to meet you." Her voice was laced with sarcasm. "Admiral, however, I would like to know, what do you plan to do with this creature?" "Kill it." "Figured. I'm afraid I can't let you do that, Admiral." "Do not make this harder than it needs to be, human. Your kind love to stick your noses where they needn't be." His face contorted with rage, and although he wasn't yelling, he sure seemed like he wished he could. "Are you ready to slaughter 2 innocent civilians on live TV, Admiral? That creature behind us has the same right to be here as we do." "I can have you thrown in jail for obstruction, human. Move!" "Make me." She pressed a button, and the screen flickered off. "Captain, are you out of your mind? First, you make us get close to that thing, and now you're standing your ground against the military." "Carol, shut up. My head hurts from the damned link." She walked up to the console and eased the ship back closer to the beast. She knew it was stupid, she knew she might be thrown in jail, and she knew that the creature just tried to kill them. But something inside her told her to stand her ground. For she knew that it was better to take a stand against an unjust law than to stand alongside it. The creature had the same right to be here as they did, and she knew it. "How's our shields, Carol?" "Down to 1%. The plasma explosion nearly knocked them out, but I'm not sure if they'll hold much longer." "Then we'll hold as long as we can." And with that, the small mouse stood between the swords of the government and the sleeping tiger. End of story. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters: Bushmaster 117, Casper Arnholtz, Draxzoon WRE, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, John Carrington, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.